Mythic raiding needs to change. I honestly think Blizzard needs to change completely at this point.
Well, I'll just provide some background on who I am. Perspective, I'm Dobie. I'm the Guildmaster of Nason. I've raided a high level in WoW ever since Mists of Pandaria, farming Molten Core 52 times a year whenever it came out. And I'm
That's a lot of times a year.
still here farming Mythic and Miradrassil. Our guild has been raiding at the top 100 level for a few expansions now, and we also do it at a very modest 9 hours per week. My goal in writing is supposed to provide some insight into some of the problems we now face in WoW as a Mythic raiding guild, and to reflect on the state that it's in. My hope is that this helps paint a clearer picture to Blizzard and what will ultimately lead to improvements. Our guild really loves raiding, but there are quite a few things that we hope can be improved. Okay. To preface a few of these topics, we may be what many may consider elite. However, I do believe if the improvements are made to these issues, all of raiding will improve. The pace and structure of raids.
Oh boy.
As well as transition to a seasonal model, there has been an inherent move towards the homogenous content cadence and structure. True.
Yeah.
The most obvious expansion level, even whenever Ian recently said it's the typical 4x. Bro, I'm so glad that he brought this up. Bro, this was such a disappointment. Oh, wow. You're going to get 4 zones, 8 dungeons, and 1 raid. I don't think this is a bad thing, but I also don't believe it's a good thing. Why is that? It's too predictable. Yeah, it's fucking boring. Absolutely.
Yeah, I talked about this. I tried to play in the Shadowlands. Yes, the greatest time to ever make a return. And, well, it was kind of boring, you know? You do stuff that you're not raiding too seriously, so you're not doing raids every week and whatnot. Guess what? At some point they announced the next expansion. No, not expansion, but the next big patch. And, well, why would you raid anymore at that point? Because the catch-up gear is going to be better than your current raiding gear, so why even bother? Plus, the catch-up gear takes roughly 5 minutes to complete and get, so there you go. Also, new zone unlocks, new zone comes out, yay! Everything before that point, useless. And your whole existence is just now secluded to this one shitty zone and still probably the main city that you already had since the start of expansion. It's predictable, it's boring, it's very linear, and it's kind of just boring. At the start, you have all these zones to explore and do all these things in. That's cool. But then instantaneously, you know, a month later, the new zone comes out and everything before that is just thrown out the window. Throw out the bathwater and the baby while you're at it. It is the worst way to do things.
I also believe that it inhibits innovation and creativity. Creativity in one aspect. I don't know. How about any aspect?
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. Perhaps the lore doesn't need to fit a single size of content, and doing so may lead to content while in aggregate maybe a certain size, but be represented by any smaller size of raids, like 3 zones, 6 dungeons, and 3 raids. Not all zones are the same size.
Would
exactly.
be nice.
Remember whenever we used to get 1 or 2 boss raids, where did those go? Why don't those exist anymore? Why haven't we seen anything like SSC and TK be released at the same time? Yes, we're aiming for a 5 to 6 month content model, so it's so we have to right size, but why not have 2 5-boss raids released simultaneously?
I have talked about this. I think this is also a huge issue for World of Warcraft in general. It's the fact that currently, again, new zone releases, what are you doing in the last zone? Exactly nothing. And a huge part of that is, you know, like 6-piece sets and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, set bonuses are pretty good. But I honestly want it to be more like, you know, you get an item, it changes how some skills function, and you have a choice between those items. Honestly, it's a little bit like Shadowlands, but, you know, better, different, and it's actually doable in raids, not farmable in Torghast or some garbage like that, okay? I think a system like that would be better. And a system like that would allow for them to release content. You have your 1 raid, 2 raids at the start, maybe 3 raids, you know, 1 raid is like 1 boss or something like that, and it takes like 20 minutes, and reduce the trash, obviously, and better respawn points, and all of that jazz, right? And then you get gear, and this gear is good, but when the next part, the next raid releases, or next 2 raids release, guess what? Those raids instantaneously do not instantly devalue all of your accomplishments, all that you have achieved, and you need to refarm everything, and everything from the past is just transmog at best. Now, that doesn't happen. Some pieces are gonna be upgrades. It's like classic, the BIS system, you know? Some BIS, for some classes, is not even in raids. It's some kind of tailoring thing, tailoring gloves for a shadow priest, yeah. You know, admittedly, I would like that, you know, if that was the BIS in retail, then it would be harder to craft. It would like, you know, take 10 hours of grinding and crafting and doing quests and materials. That would be great, but the current system is just the zoomer way of doing things, I guess you could call it, and I don't like it. It devalues too little, and it makes you look like a fool for actually playing the game.
Great question. Actually, great question. Yes, true. Why not a Magtheridon, a Gruul's Lair, and a 5-boss raid? The lore is so narrowly focused on a singular issue that we've lost creative exploration of varied content structure. We got Crucible of Storms, but the timing is what really killed the raid. It was too close to the end of the tier. That's probably true. Additionally, not only is...
And again, in my system, the end of the tier doesn't matter, because in a whole expansion, whenever they release a new content, it doesn't mean that all of your gear would be replaced. So, a new tier would technically not even exist. You would just get options and different ways to build things and combine things. It would be great. And by the way, don't worry about balancing. It's not like Blizzard can balance anything nowadays anyway, so who cares about the balancing? If they completely mess it up, good. Did you honestly expect anything else? Okay? This is the first part of the conversation. You understanding that Blizzard have not balanced a single game properly in 20 years. The best and the closest they have ever come is Warcraft 3. And even then, it's arguably not actually balanced. It's just the fact that there are specific, very, very few circumstances where every race can do something good against another race because of a tactic. You know? That is still a thing. But other than that, Blizzard have never balanced a single thing in their lives properly. So I'm kind of completely done with just waiting until they balance anything. Make it all be completely the dumpster fire of balance. It already is. We can't go lower than that.
Is every raid just 9 to 11 bosses? We basically need to have the same set of bosses every single raid. Do we always need a patchwork boss? Do we always need a council boss? It's become very formulaic, which is continually less exciting or interesting. He's totally right. He's fucking right about this too. Does a raid have to tie into some massively important piece of lore, or can there just be a tough dragon hanging out somewhere? Why aren't there any hard world bosses anymore? Well, I think that it's very hard to do that. But overall, yeah, why can't we get a challenging world boss that isn't looking for group? Farm no longer provides the benefits that it once did. Once upon a time, farming the raid meant that you were passively nerfing the raid every week to go through incremental power gains. This is no longer the case. We've reached 90% of the maximum power by the time that we get to the last boss now. This equates to a hard final few bosses, but it also means that they never get any easier to farm. We acquire gear and then some small amount of power from the farm, but nothing meaningfully nerfs content over time. Yeah.
This is also a problem that I have mentioned before, and it is the fact that gear... This is essentially... You can just describe this as gear upgrades don't matter. In Classic, when you play and you get a gear upgrade, that feels good. That feels good because it feels earned, because chances are you... this is the third time you're doing this raid or something like that, right? So, getting that piece of loot actually matters. In retail, I mean, no. Just no, it doesn't matter. You're replacing items left, right, center, and, well, everything feels kind of the same and homogenized. So, there is absolutely no feels good moment when you're actually getting new gear, and everything feels forgettable. There is no reward in the loot system currently. So, you know, getting gear should be technically a little bit harder. And again, my implementation of those things kind of fixes that, because no longer everyone gets all the pieces of gear they want instantaneously, which would be good.
And it would feel good, right? Whenever you finish the content and you can come in and just beat the shit out of it. Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. There used to be a benefit that if we farmed full bis, it would give us a small advantage in the next tier. That doesn't really exist anymore. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Instead, what exists is endless Mythic Plus farming sessions at the first week of the tier that replaces everything but our tier sets. This is pretty toxic, frankly, and I feel like it feels bad to put in the months of farming only for it to be useful for clearing higher keys sooner. So I will go a step farther. I do not think that there should be any catch-up gear except for maybe a couple of pieces of gear like in, Isle of Quel'Danas, etc. in BC. I hate the fact that there is catch-up gear inside of an expansion. I think it's fucking...
Catch-up gear, I don't actually have a problem with catch-up gear existing in general, but I have a problem the way that catch-up gear currently exists. Catch-up gear is pretty much better than anything you have done previously if you are not trying real hard, and you get it in 5 minutes. If there is catch-up gear, I'm absolutely fine with it, but make people actually work for it. And in fact, I'm completely fine with removing catch-up gear entirely if you do like a tiered dungeon system, okay? Got basic quest items from whatever situation you were in. Okay, you go in this dungeon. You farm out that, then you can move on to the more complicated dungeons until you are pre-bis essentially for the raids. That would be nice. You can completely delete catch-up gear, even though I think it would be kind of nice if you had actually catch-up gear in like longer quests in actual grindable situations, scenarios. So, things like that. I think that would be good.
Stupid. Every single raid should be relevant for the entire expansion.
Yes.
And you say, oh, that's old content. No, it's not if you're a new player.
Yeah.
Vaulton was new content for me as a Lost Ark player.
Essentially, what he's saying here kind of is that, well, how are new people gonna come into the game if only the current thing matters? Then everything before that is lost for the new players, and they're gonna get also bored in like a week. That you can say that, and other stuff like this. Yeah, old stuff in the expansion should matter. Now the previous expansion, when the new expansion comes out, okay, throw that out the window. But if you have the biz gear in that previous expansion, it should still beat all of the dungeon gear for the next expansion. But stop making content relevant, Blizzard.
Here in the year 2022, and I fucking loved it. The idea that, oh, well, it's old content. Get the fuck out of here. You should have to go through the raids and then do that. Like, I think that going through the different raids and then being able to progress into the new one feels a whole lot better than just getting reset every patch.
Also, yes, obviously.
It sucks. They should just delete everybody's gear every patch.
Yeah.
I understand.
I mean, that's what already is actually happening to a degree, unless you're actually hardcore raiding.
The goal was to leave the old stuff behind, but that's only ever really been an issue for trinkets and rare items. Well, who says it's an issue? The people that play the game professionally? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah. A game should never even take into account the 0.01% of the player base, because they are mentally insane. They do not represent anyone but themselves, essentially. So, making content changes because the 0.01% of people who play 14 hours a day on 20 different characters say that they want something, you should take that as advice that should never be done, because most likely that's going to screw everyone else over somehow.
What the fuck are we talking about here? Oh my god, there's an Arcano crystal that you can get that's really good. Who cares? Wait, what is it? Like, why is this even a factor? It's crazy. In terms of item level, the jump between tiers is a really disincentivizing farm. Bro, fucking true. So fucking true. I cannot even believe it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's massively disincentivizing. Why would you want to go and farm all of this stuff only for it to get deleted in the next tier?
Yeah. Essentially, let me put it in the super casual perspective, aka what I was when I returned to Shadowlands. The moment you hear rumors about the next patch, the next tier, and you're not fully decked out, you can just stop farming because you already know it's gonna be irrelevant. Okay? Everything you have done or will do, you already know it's gonna be 100% completely irrelevant and pretty much gray items when the new tier, new expansion comes out. The moment you just hear about it, you know it's over.
Like you're basically you're playing an expansion every 5 months. Farm is mostly for selling carries for gold and collecting mounts now. Sometimes we get a mount that everyone wants, but the gear is sadly way less useful for the next tier than it used to be. Yeah, exactly. The tuning problem. I'll preface this by saying it's hard to get this right. It requires some really good testing to dial in with players who are really good at pressing their buttons. And I think it requires relatively good understanding of class dynamics to optimize.
I think we can just forget about balancing. Again, I don't think... I'm so done talking about balance in Blizzard games. It's just, show me a single thing that they have balanced. Season of Discovery. Shit show balance. Okay? Retail. You guessed it. Absolute disgracefulness. It's just... Blizzard just can't balance things. It is what it is.
Previously, I mentioned that we are getting the ultimate or penultimate boss with roughly 90% of our potential power. This was not the case years ago. Back in Nighthold, after 2 months of farm, Gul'dan was falling over. What's going on now? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going on. They're tuning...
Eye levels, actually. Eye levels are one of the biggest problem that World of Warcraft has. Because for the gear, the only thing that matters is eye level, and after that, it's just no way, Chief. It is what it is.
The bosses for people that play the game professionally. That's the problem. Whenever the raid comes out, it's tuned for people that play the game professionally. This is stupid. I think every single time that Blizzard has to retune a boss, it is a failure. You should never have to retune a boss.
Objectively,
the boss should be released in a way that is fair and fun, and if people kill it quickly, so be it, and if people can't kill it, then get better gear.
Yeah, you can argue about the fair and fun part, but in general, yes.
If they fix raiding, then they kill the race to world first in Blizzard's mind.
Show me a single person that gives a shit about the race to world first, bruh. No one does.
Well, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I mean, what? That doesn't even matter. Like, that's a streamer thing. It's not a Blizzard, that's a streamer thing. Like, it's not, like, most people that play retail WoW don't even know what that is. Like, what? Literally,
most people probably know, but
people
no one
watch
cares.
it. Yeah, for sure they're gonna watch it. But like,
I mean, also, if we're talking about killing the race to world first, no one cares. You understand how the race to world first actually functions on a societal level, right? The people who participate there are probably the best. And it doesn't really matter if the best don't participate because of some kind of, I don't know, gearing issue or whatever. It's their loss. If they don't want to participate because X, then, well, who cares? People are still going to watch if they want the raid to world first, but it's not going to be those guys anymore. It's going to be a different group of people.
What? What is this? Why does Race to World First need to last 2 weeks? If it takes a couple of days, it's fine. Yeah, like, who decided that Race to World First has to last for 2 resets?
Also, yes.
Who decided this? What? Why? The race is tuned for Liquid and Echo only. Yes. There is no reason that these bosses are tuned as hard as they are. If you look at the amount of nerfs that, for example, the Jailer got, between, like, whenever it got released and whenever Dragonflight came out, there were, like, I'm not even kidding you, like a dozen nerfs on this boss. And they were, like, 20 and 30% nerfs in some cases. What the fuck is going on? What is this? Like, why is this even happening? The big component is tier sets. Tier sets normally adding 10 to 15% of player power, considerable power jump, disrupts the linear difficulty and curve pretty substantially. This is why during the first week of raid, you may have struggled on Nara, but by the second week, she's falling over without much of an issue. This naturally feeling that tuning was way under on the first few bosses.
Also, this 10 or 15%, I have also talked about this. Hey, if you want to do tiers and eye levels, I'm absolutely fine. But let's say an expansion starts and everyone after the raid and the abyss is like eye level 600. You know what the next tier eye level max should be? 600 and I don't know, 2 maybe, 601 maybe. And you know how powerful that gear should be in comparison to the old one? 1%, maybe 2%. So the difference between the start of the expansion and end of the expansion is like roughly, I don't know, like 10% difference. Because if people want to be the strongest, they're still going to play for that 1%. It doesn't even matter for them. If they're a casual, they're just going to do whatever, okay? Find something to do for them. The fact that every tier is a substantial increase is crazy. How often does Blizzard need to do number squishes or stat squishes or whatever they call it? Yeah. Think about it. They squish everything down to you know, like 10,000 HP at the start of the expansion, and 3 weeks in, and everyone already has 500k HP on average. That is just stupid.
Bosses, and you're likely to hit a wall towards the end of the raid. The linear scaling continues on to the end of the raid. However, the tuning for the last bosses has really been dialed up. I think this is because of the race to world first. I think it is. I'm going to say it, and I know some WoW players are going to get mad. I think that the race to world first and Blizzard's fixation on creating competitive content has ruined the game.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if it doesn't even matter if it's true or not at this point. What they're doing is just bad in general.
That's what I genuinely think. I think that it has ruined the game in every single facet. I don't think that it's like, oh, it's been bad in like this one circumstance. No, I think that it has totally ruined the game. It's ruined PvP. It's ruined raiding. It's ruined Mythic Plus. It's ruined everything. It even ruined the core DNA of the game whenever they removed the AoE, or sorry, they made an AoE cap because people were killing and AoEing things down too much in the MDI. Why are we even thinking about competitive gameplay in an MMO? I'm sorry, but if you want to play a competitive game, get the fuck off of an MMO.
Yeah. Also, the fact is, you can make anything in World of Warcraft competitive as long as people just are interested in it. You nerfed the raids by 2 billion%. If people are interested in that, they're gonna make it competitive.
Stop playing an MMO competitively. It's not a competitive game. It's not designed to be that way. It's like you're not gonna go play chess and try to make it a first-person shooter. It's not the way these games are made to
relax.
Games more often doing it. MMOs are cooperative. Well, they're competitive, but they're not competitive.
Put the headset back on.
The tuning for the last boss has been dialed up. I think Race to World first.
That was close.
So PvP is garbage. And the reason why is because the people that play it all the time have increased the skill cap so high that a normal player, it's completely unapproachable to them. Battlegrounds are completely worthless. Nobody does RBGs. World PvP is completely fucking dead.
Yes.
Every mythic player...
Well, World PvP is dead in every game, pretty much, honestly. There is no such thing as World PvP in a game where it does not devolve into just a group of people zerging.
This dungeon has like 8 different levels of metagaming in it because nobody wants to fail a key and have it downgraded and be locked into 30 minutes of bad gameplay. It sucks. Being competitive isn't the issue. That's the point of PvP. Professionally competitive is a whole different thing, though. Well, balancing the game. So, think about... Okay, so... Let me think about it like this.
Okay. I'm thinking hard.
So, this is all of the players that do...
An egg.
PvP. This is all the players...
An Eye of Cthulhu.
...that do competitive PvP. and this is all the players that do arena. Okay?
Okay, now I don't know what this is. Is it an eye that's looking at this this direction and it's gonna shoot a laser?
So what I mean by that is...
It's getting verse, boys. Oh god, what the fuck?
Whenever you make arena the defining variable that PvP is balanced around, you are making balance changes for the minority of the players.
Also true, yes.
MMOs are not... Like, I think arena has always been dog shit. It's always been...
I mean, to be fair, when we're talking about PvP, you have to make a choice. Either you balance it for the best players or the worst players. And, well, you should probably always choose the best players, because this is a flawed argument. Because the worst players have no idea what the fuck they're doing, okay? You could buff something by 50% and they wouldn't even know, okay? They have no idea you even buffed that, probably, because they're not reading patch notes. So, balancing it for the best players is probably kind of the only thing you can realistically do at the end of the day.
Bad, because that's not the way the game's designed. It's never been designed that way. RBGs always should have been the focus. And, like, larger battlegrounds always should have been the focus. Arena...
I don't know about that.
What the fuck is arena?
It's the funnest
What
mode.
is this? Is that an olive? It clearly is. Wrath of the Lich King arenas were a blast? Yeah, but think about how much better an RBG would have been in Wrath. I would have loved that.
I would not agree with that. I would have not liked that.
So that's my point. 5v5 was sick. I've been saying this since BC, yeah. And anyway, let's look at the rest of these.
Keep
the
reading,
most annoying problem is the reliance on nerfs. Unfortunately, this appears to have become common practice. I understand the need for putting out a spectacle and for these bosses to not fall over in the face of massive gearing blitz.
Gearing?
Within 24 hours, tons of people had completely demolished and beat Elden Ring. Does that make Elden Ring bad?
No, but I do think that's comparing apples to oranges in this case.
What's the logic in this? The longer, like, who the fuck thinks this?
A lot of people, I think.
It's just, it's such a stupid way of thinking. Like, this is, again, it's like
Okay, so he just wants essentially the reward for gearing up to be the possibility to just completely wipe the bosses out of existence because you have done your job, you have geared. I don't agree with that necessarily. I think it should be easier, but you shouldn't just, step all over them and just wipe them instantaneously. I think there should be still a challenge, I think the reward of the gear should be the idea that you just can do things easier, not just completely face roll things. But this is purely perception for what each and every one subscribes more to.
Such a massive fucking, elitist shit with WoW. It is so fucking cringe.
No idea how that's elitist.
It was doing so well too. Yeah, I don't know what to say. If it's for engagement metrics, devs are making a game for investors, not players. Well, then why are they making it for only a handful of the players then? I don't know why. So, Preach's video said the race to world first guilds depend on a long race or they can't exist.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, the Susan Express depends on selling gold or it can't exist. Does that mean that Blizzard should let people sell gold? What? What does that mean? So because they've decided to make a culture around this and make a career around clearing a raid quickly, that means that the entire game has to be contrived in a way that makes sense for them monetarily? What?
Again, as I said previously, if the game doesn't bend to these people are just going to be replaced by other people who the situation is appealing to. Again, this is the same thing that I said when TikTok was starting to pop off. And when everyone was saying, TikTok? Who cares about TikTok? I'm a YouTuber with 20 million subscribers. I'm not gonna go to TikTok. TikTok? What is TikTok gonna do without me? Oh, look at all these famous YouTubers with tens of millions of subscribers not going to TikTok. What is TikTok gonna do? We're not gonna allow that platform to succeed. And guess what? The obvious thing happens. TikTok just created their own celebrities. Wow, who would have expected that? I know I did. But a lot of people don't expect it. Again, you have this top guild that always clears all the raid content the fastest and blah blah blah. And then they complain that if Blizzard doesn't fix X or change X, that they are not gonna compete for the race to world first. Someone's just gonna replace them. It's not a big deal. It's completely not an issue. If there is interest, if there is value in it, and, well, there's always value in being the first one to do something with pixels, then someone's gonna try and attempt it. It's just gonna change the people who are doing it, that's it.
What the fuck are you thinking? It's just like such a brain dead thing. Like, what is wrong with Blizzard? Oh my god, why are they doing this? Oh. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind, man.
Good.
I don't get it. It's a
oxymoron.
Basement mentality? Yes. I think they're agreeing with you. They're saying it's bad design to design the race. No, I know that they're agreeing with me. What I'm saying is that I think that Blizzard is actually designing the game for race to world first. I genuinely believe that, because if they weren't, they wouldn't need to nerf every boss 8 times. Why is it that whenever you release a boss, that boss is not in its final condition and it needs to be nerfed 50 times?
To be fair, the easy argument against that is just the fact that, well, they want to be there to be hype and whatnot about it, and that does kind of make sense to a degree, right? It's just the argument that there should be hype. So, is that it? Oh jeez, we have chapters. Don't play, just wait for nerfs. Stop making raids for the top 2 guilds. Difficulty, it's impossible to make a raiding group. I don't know. Bro, you know what I did 2 days ago? Since my guild doesn't take my rogue because I'm literally a piece of shit, I made my own. I made my own run with blackjack and hookers in Season of Discovery. My rogue has a beautiful parse of 10 now because I didn't have any. Yes, and that is the 10. I am the top 10 worst players in the world on my rogue. Literally 0 gear. Literally did not even balance my talent points out properly. Literally did not know my rotation. Okay? And I made my own group with blackjack and hookers. I only invited people with parses of 60. Checking logs, baby. And we cleared 6 out of 6. Wiped on Menagerie. 1 time. No, actually 2 times. Healer's kind of trash. And yes, healer's trash is kind of a wild thing to say, I know. But it is what it is, okay? And then we one-shotted the last boss. It was great! Now I have my biz dagger because I made sure to only take myself as rogue, the person who needs that dagger. And I gave the quest reward to the wrong guy because I don't have an add-on for rolling out the loot. And the person who actually won it was pretty pissed at me. But did I care? No. Why? Because I have been banned at least 7 times on the Warlock summoning Reddit. I have literally not paid for a single summon in my life. I am in debt probably at least 100 gold at this point. Losers. Rope yourself. Anyway, that being said, I think that's it. Making a group, not really that hard, honestly. Maybe I got lucky, I made a group in 10 minutes. It was also before the reset, so it's literally a shitter run, okay? Our top DPS were 3 guys. Not 3 guys. 2 guys with a whopping 300 DPS. And then there was me, 150 DPS, boys. Mwah. Beautiful, beautiful. Didn't even have the poison talent points. What a time to be alive. Anyway, yeah, now I need to fix my parts though. But it's gonna be possible because now I have the talent points that are good. I have the rotation down, and I have 2 weapons, which I'm gonna put this mantle on. So it's not gonna be hard. Probably second part is gonna be 50 to 60, which is gonna be okay. And then we can see look onward because I'm gonna have probably more gear than just 2 daggers. In any case, yeah, I feel that's it. This was Quizzer Thanks for watching. That was Asmonbold Pigeon. It is what it is. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.